Hi, this is Bijoy P Pulipra. I am partner of Artis Law House. In the last video, we have discussed about the very basics about various kind of business vehicles. In continuation to that video, today we will see a little bit more deeper, but still again on the basics about the different type of business entities, starting from private limited company, public limited company, and partnership companies. As we all are well aware of, in India, private companies or public limited companies are regulated by Companies Act 2013 and rules made thereunder. There are various type of companies and we will look into that aspect now. So as I had mentioned, companies are governed by the Companies Act and rules made thereunder. Ministry of Corporate Affairs is a regulator to it and it regulates the companies through its offices, register, regional directors and register of companies. If you see the kind of companies, there are basically three kinds of companies in a larger perspective. One is private limited companies, second is public limited companies, and third one is one person company or OPC, which is again a private limited company in nature. So, Section 3 of the Companies Act states that a company may be formed for any lawful purpose by 7 or more persons, where the company is formed as a public limited company, by 2 or more persons, where the company is being formed as a private limited company, and by one person if it is being formed as a one-person company. So a company may be formed either as a company limited by shares, or company limited by guarantee, or as an unlimited company. So when we are classifying the companies, company can be classified into in a two manner. One is that on the basis of incorporation of a company, and second is on the basis of liability of the company. So if you see on the basis of incorporation, there are two kind of companies. One is a statutory companies and second one is registered companies. Statutory companies are not primarily governed by the Companies Act. They are governed by a statute created by the Parliament or by the state legislature. Whereas registered companies are regulated under the Companies Act 2013. When we see the classification of the companies on the basis of liability, there are unlimited companies, companies limited by guarantee, and companies limited by shares. So unlimited company means members of the company are liable for the debts in proportion to their interest in the company. Company limited by guarantee means in the event of being wound up, the members shall contribute to the assets of the company. And finally, the companies limited by shares means the companies which we predominantly seeing are company limited by shares. These companies means liability of the members of this company are limited to the extent of their unpaid portion of the capital, and which will be mentioned in the memorandum of association of the company. So apart from all these things, there are different type of forms of companies. One are called government companies, foreign companies, holding companies and subsidiary companies, associate companies and joint venture companies, investment companies, producer companies, Section 8 companies, Nidhi companies, dormant companies, and NBFCs, etc. So if you see the characteristics of a company, we can largely say that whether it is a private limited or a public limited, these characteristics almost remains the same for both these type of entities. Both these companies are basically headed by elected representatives from the shareholders who are called directors. Sometimes these directors may be outside from the shareholders also. They are called professional directors or independent directors. And these companies are basically governed by the Companies Act, its charter documents like memorandum and articles of association, and apart from that, they will be governed with the decision taken at the meetings of the shareholders and board of directors. And other peculiarity of the company is that the liability of the members of a company is limited. The company is having a perpetual succession. Perpetual succession means it is having a life separate from its members, and it has no minimum requirement of paid up capital, and it is having a separate legal entity, and it has the ability to raise capital and transferability of the shares with some restrictions because of private limited companies, which we will see now. And there is an increased transparency and financial privacy. These are the basic characteristics of the companies. When we see the private limited companies separately, we can see that Section 2, subsection 28 of the Companies Act defines a private company wherein some additional restrictions are in place. In case of a private limited company, there are restrictions for transferring the shares, which is not there in case of a public limited company. In case of a private limited company, the number of shareholders are minimum 2 and there is a maximum upper limit of 200 in case of a private limited company, whereas that upper limit is not there in case of a public limited company. And in case of a private limited company, it prohibits the public deposits, or it prohibits the public invitation to the public to subscribe for its shares. So, as the private limited company by its nature are very closely held and keeping away from the public, and the public interest in those kinds of companies are very minimal. There are many exemptions to the private limited company as far as the public company is concerned with compliance perspective. So if you see the ownership and management of the companies, the peculiarity is that the companies, in case of companies, the ownership and management are separate and it follows a 3-tier structure when it comes to the management. One is that shareholders, beneath that there are directors who are elected by the shareholders, and beneath that the management and the key managerial personnel who are operating the day-to-day affairs of the company. When it comes to taking the decision of a company, companies follow a complete democratic system in decision-making process, and day-to-day operations are being handled basically by the management of the company, who are basically run by the professionals, and policy decisions are being taken by the board of directors of the company. And when it comes to certain serious matters, shareholders have to take their decision. So this 3-tier structure is there in a democratic manner implemented in case of a companies. Now we will see a little bit into the one-person company. A single person, as I had mentioned, can constitute a one-person company, and it is basically introduced with an intention to encourage the corporatization and entrepreneurship of the micro enterprises. And OPC basically, as the name says, is a one-shareholder corporate entity where the legal and financial liability is limited, whereas in case of a sole proprietorship, that benefit is not there. Even in countries like USA, UK, even in Pakistan, there are one-person companies, and now we also have that particular kind of entity. And if you see the OPC, by its nature, it is a private limited company, and only a natural person who is an Indian citizen and resident in India can form a one-person company. That is a restriction. No minor can become a member or nominee of the OPC, or can hold the shares, or they can hold the beneficial interest in this company. OPC cannot be converted into a Section 8 company. Section 8 companies are basically charitable companies. The OPC cannot carry on the activities of NBFC, and it cannot invest in securities of a body corporate. These are some restrictions. And OPC shall be converted into a public limited company when it crosses 50 lakhs capital and average annual turnover of 2 crores. And what are the basic benefits of OPC? It's actually quite a revolutionary concept, and it comes with a very lesser compliance framework and no need to hold the annual general meeting like of other companies, and it gives all benefits of the company at an ease, like ease of getting credit, access to the market, liability, limited protection, and perpetuity, which is not there in case of a sole proprietorship. So that's all about this type of companies. Now we will see a little bit more into the partnership from other kind of business entity, which is very prevalent in India. So what is a partnership? A partnership is an association of persons who agree to combine their financial resource and management abilities to run a business and share the profits, sometimes losses also, in an agreed ratio. So these partnership firms in India are governed by an act called Indian Partnership Act 1932, which is a central legislation. So in this Partnership Act, persons who have agreed to join in the partnerships are individually called partners and collectively named as firm. A firm can be formed by minimum 2 persons, and up to maximum 20 partners can be accommodated in a normal partnership firm. The peculiarity of the partnership firm is that any act or omission by all the partners or by any partner or agent of the firm gives right of enforcement by or against the firm. A partnership, if you see the features of it, a partnership is formed on the basis of an agreement between the partners. Partnership firm can be formed on the basis of a business activity, that is basically for a profit motive, and partners are entitled to share in the profits and also to bear the losses, if any, based on the agreement terms, and each partner is a principal and so as to act on his own right. At the same time, he can act on behalf of other partners as an agent. The liability of the partners are unlimited, as in the case of a sole proprietorship. That is where we are distinguishing partnership from a company. So if you see the type of partnerships, we can say that there are three types of partnerships. One is partnership at will, and partnership, it's a particular partnership. Partnership at will means that on the will of the parties, it can come to an end. Particular partnership means is basically for a particular venture it is being formed. And the third kind of partnership, it is partnership for fixed duration. That means it is being, the term for the partnership is prefixed. So there are different type of partners also. We can call it as active partners who are actively involving into the affairs of the partnership. There are sleeping or dormant partners. There are nominal partners and partners by holding out. Partners by holding out means those who are just stating that he is a partner in a particular firm, where in reality he is not a partner. So if you see the merits of the partnership, it is the one is that it is ease of formation. As I mentioned, it's an agreement. So formation of it is easy. Dissolution also it's comparatively easy. So it is basically helping to the pooling of the financial resources, pooling of the managerial skills, and balanced decision making and sharing of the risk. So thank you very much for your patient listening. Thank you.